They don't always leave because they don't care. Sometimes they leave because caring feels too loud inside their own mind. And when they come back, it's not confusion, it's the part of them that couldn't fully let go. Welcome to Avoidant Patterns, where we break down the hidden language of emotional distance and understand why some people pull close and then suddenly step back, not because they don't feel, but because closeness feels like something they have to learn how to survive. You know that type of person who always seems emotionally guarded, like they're holding their heart behind thick glass? The kind who appears uneasy with too much closeness, who says they're not interested in relationships, yet somehow still keeps circling back to you. A lot of people misunderstand avoidant attachment completely. These individuals don't show love in the usual expected ways. You won't hear dramatic confessions or long emotional speeches from them. Instead, their feelings come out in quieter signals, mixed messages, and carefully measured honesty that's easy to miss if you're not paying attention. What we're really doing here is learning to read between the lines, because when someone with an avoidant style says certain things, it's rarely just small talk. It's often them slowly allowing someone into a space they've spent years protecting with emotional walls. And if you learn to understand that language, you start to notice something important. They may already be emotionally attached, even if they would never say it directly. One of the most common and most misunderstood phrases is when they say something like, "I'm not really a people person, but you're different." On the surface, it sounds like a casual compliment, but underneath it carries a lot more weight. For someone with avoidant attachment, this is not just a nice remark. It's like unlocking a door they normally keep shut. Their mindset is usually built around extreme independence. Many of them learned early on that depending on people can feel unsafe, unpredictable, or disappointing. So they rely on themselves instead. It's not pride, it's protection, a way of staying emotionally safe. So when they tell you that you're different, what they're really saying is that you've interrupted that belief system. You've made them question the idea that closeness is unnecessary or unsafe. That's not a small shift for them. That's something that challenges how they've lived emotionally for years. It means the walls they trust don't fully work the same way around you anymore. Something is getting through. And for someone who is used to emotional distance, that feeling can be uncomfortable, but also strangely magnetic, because they're starting to experience something they usually avoid: closeness that feels real. They won't say, "I'm falling for you," because that would feel too exposed. So instead, "you're different" becomes their safest way of pointing at something they don't fully know how to express yet. Another phrase that carries deeper meaning is when they say, "I don't usually talk about this stuff." People with avoidant attachment are usually very good at keeping conversations light and controlled. They can talk, joke, and connect socially without revealing much about what's going on inside them. It feels safer that way. They'll discuss everyday topics, opinions, work, or general interests, anything that doesn't require emotional exposure, but they rarely open up about anything deeply personal. So when they say, I don't usually talk about this," it usually signals a shift. It means they're stepping outside their comfort zone. They're about to share something real, something personal, maybe even something they've never said out loud before. What matters here isn't just what they share, but the fact that they're sharing it with you. For them, this isn't casual at all. It feels risky, like lowering their guard, even though every instinct is telling them not to. Their natural defense is to pull back, stay private, and stay safe. But if they continue anyway, it means something in them is choosing connection over protection, even if only for a moment. What they're really saying is something like, "I don't usually let people this close, but I'm letting you see this part of me." Then there are moments when they say things like, "I need space, but I still want to talk to you." At first, this can feel confusing or even contradictory. One part sounds like distance, the other sounds like connection. For the person hearing it, especially if they want consistency, it can be hard to understand. But emotionally, this reflects a deeper internal struggle. For someone with avoidant attachment, needing space isn't just a preference, it's a kind of pressure release. When emotional closeness builds through constant communication, deeper conversations, or increased attachment, their system can start to feel overwhelmed. The response to that isn't planned. It's automatic, a protective reaction that gets triggered when intimacy starts to feel like too much at once. Often this comes from earlier experiences where closeness didn't feel stable or emotionally safe. Over time, the mind creates a pattern. Distance feels safe, closeness feels risky. So even when they genuinely care about someone, another part of them reacts by pulling back when emotions intensify. That's why their behavior can seem mixed. They can miss you and still need space. They can care about you and still feel the urge to withdraw. And that's where misunderstandings usually begin. When they say, "I need space, but I still want to talk to you," it's not them being careless or unclear. It's actually a very honest reflection of what's happening inside them. One part of them is trying to calm the emotional intensity by creating distance. The other part is trying not to lose the connection they're starting to value. That small word "but" is where the truth is hiding. It shows that even while they step back, they're still trying to stay connected in some way. A more accurate way to understand what they mean might be, "I feel overwhelmed and I need to step back so I don't shut down completely, but I don't want to lose you." And that distinction matters, because if they truly didn't care, they wouldn't try to maintain contact at all. They would disappear completely and let the distance take over. Instead, when they stay present while asking for space, it shows something more complex. It means they're trying to manage closeness in a way they can emotionally handle without fully letting go. They're not just reacting in the moment, they're constantly negotiating with themselves internally, trying to balance what they feel with what feels safe. That's why phrases like "this is moving really fast" are so often misunderstood. For most people, that line can sound like hesitation, uncertainty about commitment, or even the beginning of withdrawal. But for someone with avoidant attachment, fast usually has nothing to do with time in a literal sense. It's about emotional intensity. Daily messaging, consistent attention, deeper conversations, or a growing sense of emotional reliance can all feel fast to them. Not because the relationship is objectively rushing, but because their internal system experiences closeness as something that builds pressure. So when they say it's moving too fast, they're not automatically rejecting the relationship. More often, they're recognizing that their emotional capacity is being stretched beyond what feels manageable. It's awareness, not necessarily exit. What really matters is what follows that statement. If they disappear afterward, withdraw completely, or shut down contact, that leans more toward full avoidance. But if they stay present, keep talking, continue showing up, and still maintain connection while expressing discomfort, then something different is happening. That's not disinterest, that's adjustment. They're trying to find balance between closeness and safety, between wanting connection and fearing emotional overload, between attraction and self-protection. In simpler terms, what they're often trying to say is, "I'm feeling more than I'm used to, and it's a lot for me to process, but I don't want to lose this connection." That's often the closest they can get to emotional honesty without feeling exposed. This is also why when someone with avoidant patterns says, "I'm not good at relationship stuff," it shouldn't just be taken as a casual disclaimer or a way to lower expectations. More often it's self-awareness. They know connection doesn't come as easily for them. They recognize their own inconsistency when emotions intensify, and at the same time, they're often hoping the other person will understand enough to stay while they figure it out. It's vulnerability wrapped in caution, interest mixed with fear, a desire for connection operating inside a system that keeps pulling them toward distance. When they say something like, "You should lower your expectations now to avoid getting hurt later," it can sound blunt or even self-defeating, like they're pushing you away before anything fully develops. But underneath that, it's rarely about indifference. More often, it comes from a mix of self-awareness, fear, and a quiet expectation of their own patterns repeating. Many avoidant individuals are very aware of their cycles, getting close, feeling overwhelmed, pulling back, shutting down when emotions become too intense. They don't say it because they don't care. They say it because they do care, and that awareness makes them uneasy. So when they say, "I'm not good at this," it's doing several things at once. On one level, it's vulnerability. They're admitting a perceived flaw, which is not easy for someone who naturally protects their emotional space. It's already a form of exposure. On another level, it can function as a kind of unspoken test, not in a manipulative sense, but in a quiet internal question. Will you still stay if you see this side of me? Will you lose interest when things aren't smooth? Will honesty push you away? It becomes an early warning, almost like they're offering you an exit before things get complicated, not because they want you to leave, but because part of them expects that eventually you might. It's like saying, here's what I struggle with. Are you still here? And then there's a third layer that often gets missed entirely. The fact that they're even having this conversation with you means you matter enough for them to be honest about something uncomfortable. Someone who is emotionally detached wouldn't explain this, wouldn't reflect on it, and wouldn't stay in that level of openness. They would keep things surface level or disappear. So if they're still there, still talking, still trying to explain what's going on inside them, that already says something important. It means emotional attachment is present, enough that they're choosing discomfort over distance. What they're often really saying underneath everything is something like, I know I struggle with closeness, I know I don't always handle relationships well, but I'm still here and I'm still trying, because this matters more than I expected. Not a promise of perfection, just an admission of effort. And then there are even more revealing moments, like when they simply say, I miss you. On the surface, it sounds ordinary, but for someone with avoidant tendencies, it carries far more emotional weight than it does for most people. Their usual internal structure is built on independence. The belief is often, I can handle things alone. I don't rely on people. I don't need emotional dependence. So saying I miss you disrupts that entire framework. Because missing someone isn't just about absence, it's about emotional impact. It means your presence has registered deeply enough that your absence is now felt. And for someone who has worked hard to minimize attachment, that realization can feel unsettling. It introduces something they usually try to avoid, emotional dependence. Not because they don't want connection, but because connection creates vulnerability, and vulnerability challenges their sense of control. So, when they say they miss you, it often translates more honestly to something like, I didn't expect your absence to affect me this much, but it does. And I can't ignore it anymore. That's a real emotional shift. Because for avoidant patterns, admitting need isn't casual, it's not automatic. It goes against the internal rules they've relied on for safety for a long time. So when that line gets crossed, it usually means attachment has already formed in a meaningful way, not as an idea, but as an experience they can actually feel. It doesn't erase fear, it doesn't fix their patterns, but it does show that something has broken through the usual emotional defenses. And that's exactly why it feels so intense for them, because now they're no longer just observing connection from a distance. They're actually inside it. What makes avoidant attachment so complex is that it's not a lack of feeling. It's actually the opposite in many cases. There can be strong emotion, strong attraction, even deep care, but the nervous system treats closeness like something that needs to be managed rather than fully surrendered to. So the internal experience becomes split. One part of them genuinely wants connection. It feels good, grounding, even comforting at times. But another part is constantly scanning for pressure, loss of control, or emotional dependence building too quickly. That second part is not logical in the moment. It's protective, automatic, learned over time. That's why their behavior can feel inconsistent. They can be fully engaged one day, warm and present, and then slightly distant the next without anything obvious changing externally. What changed is often internal emotional load. If connection starts to feel too present in their system, even without conflict, they may instinctively reduce intensity. This reduction doesn't always look like disappearing. Sometimes it's subtle. Slower replies, less emotional language, shorter conversations, or a shift toward practical topics. It's not always conscious avoidance of the person, it's often unconscious regulation of their own emotional state. And this is where misunderstandings usually grow. The other person often interprets that distance as loss of interest, when internally it may actually be the opposite. Increased feeling that triggered a need for space to rebalance. A key thing to understand is that avoidant individuals often don't trust emotional intensity, even when it feels good. If something feels too good, too close, or too emotionally absorbing, another part of them starts asking what the cost will be later. That anticipation alone can create withdrawal, even before anything actually goes wrong. At the same time, when distance increases too much, the attachment system can activate again. That's why they might come back after pulling away. Not because they are playing games, but because the emotional bond didn't disappear, it just got suppressed temporarily for regulation. So the cycle can look like closeness, then overwhelm, then distance, then re-engagement. From the outside, it feels unpredictable. From the inside, it feels like trying to stay emotionally balanced while still staying connected. Another important layer is how they handle emotional language. Many avoidant individuals struggle with direct emotional expression, not because they don't understand what they feel, but because naming it makes it feel more real, more binding, and more exposing. So they often replace emotional truth with indirect phrases. Instead of saying, "I need you," they might say, "I like talking to you." Instead of, "I'm scared of losing this," they might say, "This feels like a lot sometimes." The feeling is there, but it gets translated into safer language. Over time, if someone stays consistent, calm, and non-pressuring, something interesting can happen. The avoidance system can begin to recalibrate, not instantly and not completely, but gradually. Their tolerance for closeness can increase when closeness doesn't feel like it demands immediate emotional performance or constant availability. What often helps is predictability without pressure. When emotional intensity doesn't spike unpredictably, their nervous system doesn't feel as threatened. That allows them to stay engaged longer without needing to retreat as often. But even in healthier dynamics, the core pattern doesn't disappear overnight. It usually becomes more manageable rather than fully erased. They may still need space, still overthink emotional exposure, still hesitate when things deepen, but the difference is they don't always disconnect completely anymore. One of the most misunderstood aspects is that avoidant individuals can care deeply and still struggle to stay present in that care. So someone might genuinely matter to them, but when emotional closeness reaches a certain threshold, their system prioritizes regulation over expression. That's why they can seem distant even in moments where they actually feel a lot. And this is also why words like "I miss you," "you're different," or "this feels fast" carry so much hidden meaning. They're not just statements about the other person, they're also reflections of internal emotional tension being briefly spoken out loud. In the end, avoidant attachment is not about emotional absence, it's about emotional management. The feelings exist, sometimes strongly, but they are filtered through a long-developed survival strategy that prioritizes independence, control, and emotional safety above open vulnerability. And when you understand that, their behavior stops looking like confusion or mixed signals and starts looking like a constant negotiation between closeness they want and protection they feel they need. Another important thing to understand is that avoidant patterns don't come from randomness. They are usually built over time through experiences where emotional closeness didn't feel steady, safe, or predictable. So the mind learns a simple rule without ever saying it out loud. Relying too much on people can lead to disappointment, discomfort, or loss of control. That rule doesn't stay in the past. It becomes part of how they interpret present relationships. So even when someone is genuinely kind, consistent, or emotionally safe, another part of them is still evaluating closeness through that older lens. This is why trust for them is often not just about the other person's behavior, but about how their own nervous system reacts to that behavior. They can logically know someone is safe, but still feel internally uneasy when emotional intimacy increases. That gap between logic and nervous system is where most of their internal conflict lives. Because of that, they often develop a strong ability to function well in connection without fully surrendering to it emotionally. They can be present, engaged, even affectionate, but still keep a part of themselves slightly detached. It's not fake, it's controlled emotional exposure. And when things start to feel too emotionally immersive, that control becomes more active. They might not even realize it consciously, but but they begin creating distance in small ways, not necessarily leaving, but reducing emotional intensity so they can regain a sense of internal balance. What's often confusing is that this distance doesn't always mean loss of interest. In many cases, interest is still there, sometimes even growing, but their capacity to sit with that level of emotional closeness has limits, and once those limits are reached, regulation takes priority over expression. That's why their behavior can feel like two opposing forces happening at once. They can genuinely miss someone and still avoid them for a short period. They can feel deeply connected and still hesitate when the relationship becomes more serious. From the outside, it looks contradictory, but internally it's more like overload management. Another subtle detail is how they often process emotional security in hindsight rather than in the moment. When they have space, they may start to miss the connection, reflect on it, and feel the emotional pull more clearly. But when they are inside the intensity of closeness, the focus shifts to self-protection instead of appreciation. This creates a cycle where distance brings clarity and closeness brings caution. So their emotional awareness feels uneven, not because it isn't real, but because it changes depending on how activated their attachment system is. It's also common for avoidant individuals to underestimate how much they actually feel while they are in connection. They may downplay it internally, not because they are dishonest, but because acknowledging strong attachment can feel destabilizing. So they stay slightly disconnected from their own depth until something forces them to recognize it, like separation or emotional distance. That's often when phrases like "I miss you" become more frequent or more emotionally loaded, because absence removes the immediate pressure of closeness, and in that space, feelings that were previously regulated start to surface more clearly. At the same time, when closeness returns, the protective system activates again. So the cycle can repeat: clarity in distance, caution in closeness, adjustment in between. Another layer that often gets overlooked is their sensitivity to perceived expectations. Even subtle expectations can feel like pressure to someone with avoidant tendencies. Not because the other person is demanding, but because emotionally they associate closeness with responsibility, obligation, or loss of freedom. So they may pull back when they feel they are expected to respond emotionally in a certain way, even if that expectation was never explicitly stated. This can make them seem unpredictable, but it's often just internal pressure regulation. Despite all of this, it's important to recognize that avoidant attachment is not fixed personality damage. It is a pattern of emotional protection. And like all patterns, it can soften when experiences repeatedly show that closeness doesn't automatically lead to loss of safety or self. When that happens, something subtle shifts. They don't stop needing space, but space becomes less about escaping emotion and more about simply recharging. They don't stop valuing independence, but independence no longer feels threatened by connection. And in those moments, their communication often becomes more stable. Less push and pull, more steady presence. Not because they've become different people, but because the internal conflict between closeness and safety is no longer as intense. At the core, what you're really seeing in avoidant behavior is not emotional absence, but emotional caution, trying to coexist with genuine attachment. In the end, avoidant attachment is not about someone being cold, heartless, or incapable of love. It's about someone who feels deeply, but has learned to protect themselves from that depth because closeness once felt unsafe, overwhelming, or unpredictable. So what you often see on the outside, distance, mixed signals, hesitation, is not the full story. Inside, there is usually a quiet struggle happening every time they get close to someone. One part of them wants connection, presence, and emotional closeness. The other part is trying to make sure they don't lose themselves in it. That's why their behavior can feel like a push and pull. It's not a lack of feeling, it's a conflict between feeling and fear. And in many cases, the distance they create is not meant to erase the bond, but to manage the intensity of it. But if there is one truth underneath everything, it's this. When an avoidant person stays, communicates, opens up even a little, or keeps coming back after distance, it usually means something real is there. Not perfect, not simple, but real. Because people don't repeatedly return to something that means nothing to them. They return to what they are still trying to understand, still trying to feel safely, and still trying not to lose. And maybe that's the most important thing to remember. Love doesn't always look consistent, and connection doesn't always feel stable at first. Sometimes it's messy, cautious, and afraid of itself. But even in that hesitation, something meaningful is trying to exist. If this helped you understand the hidden side of emotional distance, make sure you like the video, subscribe to Avoidant Patterns, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss what we uncover next. And if this message resonated with you, drop one word in the comments: awareness.